Okay. And okay. All right. Good evening. Welcome to FL Stanton's GO Team Meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the GO Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the GO Team, please identify yourself when you speak. First order of business is to call roll. The secretary will now take the roll.
Okay. Dr. Quinlan McIntyre.
Present.
Malika Lumumba. Tiffany Coleman.
Present.
Ashley Herbert.
Present.
Jessica Tucker. Rivers.
Present.
Of course, myself. Alma Hall.
Present.
Judy Lamore.
Present.
Okay. And we do have a quorum established.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you via email on the invite as well as in the chat. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion Tiffany Coleman.
A second?
I second Ashley Herbert.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
I Tiffany Coleman.
I Ashley Herbert.
I Stephanie Powell.
I Judy Lamore.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Please say abstain. All right, Ms. Powell, is the agenda approved?
Yes.
Okay, we will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was on the website as well as in the chat.
March 5th.
On March 5th. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections? If there are no corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I motion Tiffany Coleman.
A second?
I second Alma Hall.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
I Judy Lamore.
I Alma Hall.
I Tiffany Coleman.
I Ashley Herbert.
I Stephanie Powell.
Our meeting minutes have been approved. We will follow our agenda with our first action item. Our first action item for today is the optional school uniform recommendations vote. So we will actually have an overview by Ms. Herbert, and then we will vote to approve the optional school uniform recommendations. Ms. Herbert?
Okay. Ms. Batiste, can you share the slide, please?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm presenting the uniform committee updates. Next slide. So right here, we're at April 2nd, 2025. Go Team will vote and finalize the recommendation. Through August through November, we established a committee. We identified members, confirmed roles, and introduced the committee's purpose. We also set committee goals, reviewed the committee's objectives, including the stakeholders' engagement, plan uniform options, and communication requirements. December through January, the committee developed an engagement and feedback plan, outlined the methods and schedule for collecting feedback. Also, the committee began gathering initial input from key stakeholders, which included parents, students, and staff. We used our piece of to get back feedback. Our piece that we identified was surveys and focus groups. January through February, we finalized uniform options, we defined the uniform components, and we present a clear, appealing overview for the community consideration via surveys and focus groups. We also analyzed the data. And lastly, the committee presented survey responses to identify student ambassadors. March through April, the committee will present a final report to the school's GO team with a summary of stakeholders' feedback, key insights, and suggested next steps. And the committee will create a communication plan to inform the school community about the optional school uniforms. Today, we are actually going to vote and finalize this recommendation. Go to the next one, Batiste. Keep going. Where it's turn, the one where it says actually vote. So today we're going to vote. This is the proposed uniform options for the 2025-2026 school year. So we have navy blue khakis. We have tan khakis, which can include pants, shorts, or skirt. My apologies. For the navy blue khakis, it can include pants, skirts, or shirt or skirts as well. Well, pants, shorts, or skirts as well. We have yellow cotton polos. It can be long sleeve or short sleeve. We have royal blue polos, which can be long sleeve or short sleeves. We have shoes, which can be choose your own shoes. And lastly, we have the navy blue cardigan. So these are the proposed uniform items for the 2025-2026 school year. Go back, please. So after we vote today, the next slide, please. Stop right there. Thank you. So actually, after we vote today and finalize our plan, the next step will be between May and August, we will implement the uniforms that are adopted. So can we go back to the screen where we actually vote? Okay. Thank you. So Mrs. Tucker, we're actually ready to vote.
Yes, ma'am. So our first action item, which is to vote for the proposed school uniform recommendations. Do I hear a motion to approve this item?
I motion Tiffany Coleman.
A second?
Second, Judy Lamore.
It has been moved and second. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Hall.
Alma Hall. Were the bottoms and tops, were those voted on by students and parents as well as the community?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
And because there are two different colorways, that means any kid in any class can wear either one of those options? For instance, somebody could wear the blue polo with navy blue pants, or
Yes.
a yellow polo with khaki pants, and
Yes.
there's no differentiation among grade?
No, we didn't specify it according to grade levels.
And were there any comments among parents that we should know about or we should consider?
Well, we had 70 participants, and a lot of participants, they wanted the school uniforms, and then we had some participants who did not want the school uniform because they felt that it took away from the students' individuality. But overall, the data presents that we should have school uniforms.
But no particular choice on color schemes or outfits in any way?
We don't have a choice on color schemes, but Batiste, go back to the actual options that was presented to the community. So these were the actual options that was presented to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so we narrowed it down based off of data and in the students' focus groups.
Ms. Herbert, if I'm correct, was it not the student focus group that decided that they needed more than one option?
Exactly. They wanted to really express that they wanted to wear the FL Stanton colors. Go to the next slide, please, Batiste. And right here, which I propose black shoes, white shoes, or choose your own option. They were really adamant about choosing their own option because they said black and white does not go with FL Stanton colors.
Okay. Gotcha.
Thank you.
We're raising smart kids here.
We are.
We're
They have
raising
a
kids to make
voice.
choices. Yes.
Yes.
And they do want options. Thank
They
you.
do. They do.
Yes, I'll second that motion, Alma Hall. Thank you.
Also, they wanted to make it long sleeve and short sleeve because they said in the wintertime it gets cool. So they want to make sure that they have the options where they can actually wear longer sleeves polos. So
Wish I could have been there to sit in on the discussion just among the students.
yes.
Okay. Seconding that motion. Thank you.
Let's go back to the slide where we're actually voting on. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All right, we need to move to vote if we approve the proposed uniform options. All in favor, please say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
Aye, Alma Hall.
Hi, Judy Lamore.
I, Ashley Herbert.
Hi, Tiffany Coleman.
I, Stephanie Powell.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? And the proposed uniform options are approved. Thank you, Ms. Herbert. We will move forward with our agenda. We have discussion items. Dr. McIntyre, you have the floor to discuss the 2025 spring map results and the needs assessment.
Okay, give me just a second. Let me get this up and then I will share. Okay. So we are going to talk a little bit about our, I don't know why it says maps. Sorry about that. Map spring results. We'll do literacy, math, and science. So just wanted to start with taking a look at this is our kindergarten and first grade growth and achievement data for reading. So I'll give you a few moments to take a look at that. So the top bar, just for context, the top bar is growth. And that's the growth from we're right now only looking at winter to spring. And then the bottom two bars are the achievement levels. And so that also gives the percentages. Now, this is based on a quintile. So all the number of students that we have are broken into the quintiles and where they fall. So there's a low, an average low, a medium, then a average high, and then a high is what the blue is. And this is math. So one of the things that we're noticing in kindergarten and first grade in both reading and math is that as the year progresses, we are not always seeing the growth that we anticipated. And so students are growing, but not necessarily growing at the rate in which we are always expected. And so sometimes when their RIT score is remaining the same, essentially what's happening is the expectation, so the bar is always moving. The students, what we are seeing, our scholars aren't always keeping up with that bar as the bar is moving. So our rate of growth isn't necessarily what it should be. And we're seeing that really at all levels, beginning at kindergarten. All right, so I'm going to keep moving. So this is what we are starting to see across reading from second to fifth grade. So that this is showing um, our proficiency and where we are from fall to winter to spring, so that you can see what the progressions are looking like in reading. So now I will show math as well. So if you remember our continuous improvement plan, there were a few things that we wanted to take a look at. And so one of those things were to identify students that we could continue to work with. We want to be able to identify at least 20 students in both reading and math across third through fifth grade that we could really work on proficiency. And so we've really been striving for that. So students that were already proficient, um, we were trying to maintain and keep them at proficient, even to move some of them into the distinguished category, as well as move some of them that were on the cusp of developing into proficiency. So what we were trying to do was start to identify scholars that were on the bubble to give them different support, so to differentiate the support. So we're doing some interventions and some gap filling for those learners that were at the beginning level, for those students that were at proficiency or distinguished already, really giving them some talent development and enrichment to bolster them. And then those that were across the middle to start to identify who is on the cusp of from beginning to developing, who's on the cusp of developing to proficient, so that we can start to move those students over. That has been our focus in both reading and math. So we were looking at remediation plans. So one of the things that we're trying to be consistent about with our data meetings is trying to look at the common assessment. So what assessments are we giving every 2 weeks? Where are students falling with that? And then based on where they are not proficient, being intentional about the remediation plan for reteach. What are we doing to reteach? How are we going to reteach? What are we reteaching? And to whom are we delivering this intentional instruction, and then reassessing after that reteach to see our students mastering now. So we are seeing that there's some growth that's happening between the initial tier one instruction, the remediation that happens, and then some increased proficiency on the back end. We're not seeing what we want, but we are seeing some an increase in proficiency as we implement those reteach plans. So this is something that I wanted to share some comparisons. So what you're looking at right now, these are current third, fourth, and fifth graders. So the MAP spring data, which is where we were at this point last year, is at the very top. That's the spring 23-24. And then what you see below is the spring 24-25, which is where they are now. So that's where they were as second graders, and then now where they are as third graders. Um, for fourth grade, where they were as third graders last year, where they are now at fourth graders. But in the middle of that is what they scored on actually the milestones. So we were finding that map, we're setting that up to be a predictor of what we think milestones will look like. Well, if that's the case, so if we take a look at our current fourth graders and we look at where they were in the spring last year for MAP, what they actually scored on milestones, and then where they are now in the spring, we're seeing some significant changes, differences. Um, so even in our third graders, from where they were on MAP, because they didn't take milestones, but where they were on MAP last year versus where they are on MAP this year, we're seeing some differences. So we understand that that group of third graders has gone through. That's probably the cohort of students that we have that have had the most inconsistencies. Throughout their schooling, probably in the past 2 or 3 years. So what we're seeing now is kind of where the rubber meets the road. But we know because of what they've had, what we need to do. And so we are doing that. We're seeing some growth with that. Same thing with our current fifth graders is where they were in fourth grade, what they actually scored in milestones, which was fantastic based on what we were seeing versus what actually happened in milestones, and then where they are right now, excuse me, with spring milestones. I mean, with spring map. And we'll make these same comparisons for math. So as you can see, some things that really stick out are our third graders, where they were in second grade versus where they are now, third grade math. The math in third grade becomes a little bit more challenging. And then also taking a look at where we were in for the fifth graders, where they were in fourth grade versus where they are in fifth grade. And we also know that the fifth grade math becomes a little bit more challenging. And so our data is reflecting that. So all the more reason for some of our focus of what we've been doing around identifying what students are not mastering on the first go round of tier one instruction, providing some remediation and reteach plans and small group instruction, and then reassessing so that we can continue to track their level of mastery for each standard. Okay. And then this is what science looks like. So this was the map last year. So only our fifth graders take the science assessment. So this is where fifth grade, the 23-24 is where fifth graders were last year. So these are the fifth graders that are now sixth graders. But this is how fifth grade was last year on the map. And then this is how this year's fifth grade is faring on map this year. In the middle is how those fifth graders actually fared on Georgia milestones. Now the data for science looks a little different because that's also broken up into quintiles. It looks a little different than the proficiency rating that would normally occur for reading and math. So hopefully, as we continue to focus on STEM, continue to do so, we are having small group instruction, even for science, happening in fifth grade, and we are seeing some differences based um, on some of that small group instruction and intentionality. So now that we've taken a look at the map results, to move on to our activity, which is a needs assessment. So during this needs assessment, we will look at the data from the spring map administration and try to identify 2 to 3 needs for this upcoming school year 25-26. And this will help our leadership, our instructional leadership team, try to think about some things that we can do and focus on as we prepare for next school year. So here are some guiding questions. What does this data tell us? What good news is there to celebrate? Where are our potential growth opportunities? And what trends do we see in the data? So I want you to think about those questions. If you want, you can take a picture of them with your phone. So that as we scroll back through the data, I'm going to let us see it again, and I'll go through. I won't necessarily talk, but I'll give some time with each of the slides so that you can take a look at it and look at it through the lens of these 4 questions. So I'm going to go back. I think it's important for us to look at kindergarten through fifth grade for all of these. Okay, I'm going to move to math for kindergarten and first grade.
Dr. McIntyre, could you just explain to me what are the small numbers at the beginning of each row. Like
This-
if you go
thi-
back, yeah, if you,
This is so here,
yes,
1945, this right here.
yes,
This is the percentile, if it were normed, so this is the percentile of what it would be out of 100%. So the 19th percentile, the 45th percentile.
and then breaking that down into the 5 levels.
Then to break those number of students down into the quintiles. So this is where they fall within the quintiles. As a class or as a grade level,
As
it
a-
is the
yeah.
45th percentile.
Right, right. So that would be like an average for that class. That's where that group falls.
No, so like if they were normed across all of the students that were to take the map,
Right, right.
yes,
Out of 100%.
yes.
That's their average. Yes, gotcha. So, oh gosh.
So would you want me to keep moving?
Well, I'm sorry, is my mic on? Okay. Just trying to take a look at it again and understanding what the numbers represent. So, looking at that kindergarten from, excuse me, from last year at the 19th percentile, that's a big jump to 45th.
So this is just this year's, not from last year.
Oh, it's just this year.
Just this year from the winter
Okay.
to the spring.
Okay. So this is a lot to take in one breath. But looking at this, there's just a lot of work to do.
Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Mhm.
And this is just at kindergarten and first grade. First grade, okay. Okay. So the achievement is within the 32nd percentile. I don't know, somehow the growth is not adding up to the percentiles. The quintiles don't seem to make sense.
Oh, it does. That's not an average. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
I know
telling you.
that,
Yeah,
but I'm
okay,
just
okay.
saying, it just doesn't seem to jive with those percentiles, coming in at those percentiles. Although I'm looking at growth, but if I look at achievement, that makes sense for some reason.
Oh, so the growth is based on all the other students that are taking the map and the rate in which all the other students are growing that are at the kindergarten level. We are at the 19th percentile in growth,
Uh-huh.
meaning our kids aren't moving because we should be in the 70th percentile and higher because we should be growing at that rate. We are not growing. If we consider like 70 between 60 and 70 to be average, we're not making average growth.
And that's an issue.
So I'm noticing that you still for the winter achievement and for the spring achievement, that 13% and 14% that are proficient or above, those have to be probably the same students. Um,
Yes.
And then because map works where the levels change, that's why that 40% that was developing, even though it's kindergarten,
Mhm.
Whatever.
they did not meet that. That's what you were talking about with they're not growing at the rate that they should be growing. They may be
Yes.
growing, but just not the way MAP says they should be growing.
Oh, at the
Correct.
rate of other students growing.
Yes, at the rate of other students that they're being
That's the
compared
issue.
to.
That's
Both.
the issue.
Well, it's
Yeah.
both. Yes, at the rate of other students, but also at the rate. So MAP also gives us um a benchmark of where they should be at certain stages. So where should they be in the fall versus the winter versus the spring? The bar continues to move. We're not moving at the rate that the bar is moving. And that's for both reading and math. The reading looks better,
Yeah,
but it's reading and math.
still not, yeah.
Okay, so let's keep going.
Okay.
Let's take a look at this, our our trend across the school year for second, third, fourth, and fifth graders. So this is reading.
Something wonderful going on in the third grade. I don't know. We need to find out what that is and bottle it.
Fourth grade.
Third grade.
What do you say third grade?
So we're looking at, if you look at those bars, just going across, and look at the numbers in those bars going across, they're moving.
You're talking about at the very top?
No, the third grade. Just look at all three seasons, the fall, the winter, the spring. Just in third grade and reading.
I would say that was for fourth. That's moving in
Yeah,
that is
the third,
decreasing that red part.
yeah,
It
that's what we want.
increased.
Yeah.
That red part increased for third grade.
Exactly.
Well, the
We don't
red
want to
part is where
increase
we
the
don't
red.
want them.
I'm sorry, the red part is what?
We
That's where
don't
we
want to
don't
increase
want
the
them.
red. We want to decrease the red.
Oh, so wait a second. So what is the yellow?
The yellow is developing. So red is
okay.
beginning. Yeah. Yellow
Okay,
is
so red is,
developing.
okay, gotcha. I'm looking at it the same way I was looking at the other scores,
Okay.
which is, yeah. Okay, so the red is developing, the yellow is proficient, and the green is, what is that? Proficient or something,
Yeah.
dynamic?
So the red is beginning, yellow is developing, green is proficient, and the dark green is distinguished.
Oh, okay, so then we really need to look at that second grade. Something happens between second and third grade. Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not sure that something happens between second and third grade, but I can say that's the reason why I want us to look at the trend from what the third graders were doing in second grade.
Mhm.
It appears that it's the cohort.
Could be. Only you know your students. I don't know who's in there. You know, only you guys would know that. But taking a look at that fifth grade, fifth grade is moving right along. So whatever's going on there and whatever's going on in that second grade, yeah. We need to bottle that and shake it up.
Dr. McIntyre, if we
Yes.
look at trends I've been on the Go team with FL Stanton for a long time, and I know there was a place or an instant a couple of years ago where we came off the needs improvement list. And so our strategies around extra tutoring and support of kids changed. And I would be curious, obviously not at this moment, to go back through data over the past couple of seasons to see if we're seeing a decline that now sort of parallels the change in our approach to additional outside the school day support.
We do have some outside the school day support now.
Okay.
We do have tutorial that's going on 2 days a week now.
Okay.
Um, we do have that. So we have some interventions and differentiation that's going on within the school day as well as outside.
Right. And I'm not saying it to be critical by any stretch of the
No, no, no,
imagination.
no. I just wanted
Yeah.
to let you know it was still happening.
Okay. I know from our end, there were a number of years where like Camp Jenny staff came down to the community on Saturday mornings. And there was like a Saturday program. And we had a team that came down and helped with tutoring on Saturday mornings. And then during COVID, we did some one-on-one tutoring with kids on Zoom. So I would just be
Yeah. Keep that as
curious.
an opportunity. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly the kind of thing that we want to hear. This is math. But Miss Alma, I think you brought up a good thing too when you were asking specifically about, third grade. And when we're thinking about if it is indeed tends to be a cohort thing, I think it's important for us to think about like what are some things that we can do to address when we have an anomaly that happens with a cohort, versus some things that we just do kind of in general to be able to address the data as a whole. So
Yeah,
that's
sometimes.
still something to lift.
Yeah, sometimes you have to shake it up a little bit. You may have to reorganize. So, but like I said, only you know your students. So, you'll know what that needs to look like. And then maybe some special activities on grade for the whole grade so that students begin to want to aspire to something other than what they've been asked to do because they may not be getting enough of a challenge. So it's little things like that that tend to make a difference sometimes.
All right, I'll keep us moving. So this is the comparison as we were talking about, for example, cohorts. So the current third graders, that's where they were in second grade in the spring, and now where they are in third grade in the spring. Fourth graders, where they were last year as third graders in the spring and where they are now. And same with fifth grade, where they were as fourth graders and now where they are as fifth graders. So the idea is we want to see a trend that as they are moving through the grade levels, at a bare minimum, they stay the same. It the hope is that they continue to get better and better as they move through. Because we understand, the cohort is moving through, they're getting new content, and all of that for the grade level. But our hope is that we want to grow them faster than the average so that we can make up for what either may have been lost or missed in the previous grade levels. And we're seeing some of that with our third, fourth, and fifth grade when it comes to reading.
And just may
So
have to shuffle that, those cohorts. You just have to shuffle a little bit just to see. It may not. But generally speaking, when you shuffle it up, you get a completely different approach. Completely different results sometimes. But it's hard. But the fifth grade is, the fifth grade is moving. Not the way you want, I guess, but moving.
and then this is math.
Math is a big problem here. Big problem. Do you have a math coach?
We do.
Math coach. I might come in and give the math coach, if you'd like me to, give the math coach some additional tools.
I have a suggestion. I know we use iExcel as an intervention tool. I was thinking like how we have specials at the school to make sure that the students are actually getting their minutes. Can we have like an iExcel lab where it'd be like their specials rotation where once a week they can go and they can do like math for 50 minutes for iExcel, or they could do like the reading for 50 minutes just to ensure that the teachers are giving the tier one instruction, but they're also getting the intervention piece that they need.
Something to consider.
We used to have a game that we did, but I can't remember what it is. I'd have to make some phone calls. You could do it in literacy and in math. It was like a school-wide thing where kids had to, it was kind of like a contest, like a spelling bee. Like they would have to do certain things, mental math. Then they had a section where it was paper math. Then they had a section where it was above grade math. But it was like a contest, and the kids would get prizes for certain things. So I can't remember what it was. Chizumbop comes to mind, but it wasn't Chizumbop. Chizumbop is a Japanese math process, but the other things that they did were really interesting. I'll see what I find. I have to make some phone calls.
Do we partner with any like outside tutoring companies? I mean, I know at one point myself, and this was years ago, I attended I think it was Sylvan Learning Center just because I didn't want to do my homework. So my mom sent me to like an outside tutoring company just to break up the monotony of everyday homework and the school routine. I've looked into it for my own daughter when she was kind of in a stagnated place because she was bored. Um, but I do know that maybe partnering with another outside company that's willing to either come to the school or maybe offer discounts to our students or something may help and not put as much stress and strain on our already overworked, overstressed teachers.
Okay.
I was also thinking, I know we like to use iExcel, and that's real good for like the skill base, because we got to have things where the students are doing multiple things. You got to have people in front of them, and you can also use the computers as a tool. But looking into a different program, because I think once the math starts getting harder, so even if I'm looking at the data, like how they're not able to push through to the proficiency, and they'll stay there in that developing range or even move back down to the beginning range. Stuff like progress learning, where they have problems and questions that are kind of similar to what they may see on these assessments, rather than only just this, because you do need the skill part. I do believe in that as well. They need their part, but they also sometimes the wording throws them off a lot. And I mean, just even being the teacher in the classroom, I can say that, just dissecting these actual, like, what are they actually asking you to do? So giving them ample opportunities for them to practice answering those types of questions. And then you can even tailor it to the levels that they currently are on so we can track their progress and move them along.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the exact approach, Ms. Tucker. Yes, exactly. Reading and math. But we have to work them into that.
Your science.
So, so what happened between winter and spring this year?
Small group instruction.
Hmm.
The science, the STEM coach pushing into the classrooms, as
Excellent.
well as what was happening in the STEM lab.
Same
We
with
do a lot
mine.
of hands-on activities in the science with fifth grade, and exposing them to the we started dissecting what the standards were actually saying for science. And so they need to be able to read use the diagrams and use data and ask questions that make sense for a piece of data that they're given. So that helps along the way too with the science with the students.
Same process can be used in math and literacy. Same thing. Same process. They need to understand literacy test questions. They need to understand math test questions. And they should be instructed in that all during the year, the same way. There should be hands-on all year long, every classroom. Same thing with math and literacy. And they can develop projects to do in math and literacy that help them to identify what the words are saying and what they would look like. Words have an appearance. They should be able to understand that. So we got to develop the processes and stick to them and make it a continuous way of approaching learning.
Okay, so I'm going to move us along. So here's our discussion point. So some things we did get into some opportunities. I have some opportunities here, but let's look at what do you feel like are some potential strengths.
I think the students are willing to learn. I haven't seen your population. I haven't been with them personally this year, but most kids at this level, they're anxious to learn. And those that are staying steady and holding the course are pretty much holding it for everybody. So those are things that we may want to look into in terms of peer tutoring or peer coupling, so that students, when they're in their classrooms, maybe they can break up into small groups or pairs where one student works with another student to come up with an answer to a problem or a decision for something that needs to be done. Those kinds of things work well because then other students realize, hey, we're all pretty much thinking the same thing. How can we bring this to a level that will help everybody and make sense to everybody? So those kinds of things work too. And students like to help one another. Everybody thinks they're a teacher.
Okay. Any strengths that we can say based on the data that we may have noticed?
Well, just looking at that fifth grade in science was, again, and having Ms. Tucker explain it, we need to find ways to do those approaches in literacy and math.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the small group and the hands-on approach in science is clearly working, so that would be a strength.
Okay. Okay, so I have for some strengths that we notice, particularly fifth grade science, we're saying some um, hands-on instruction and inquiry-based instruction. 'Cause she was talking about asking questions and asking questions that make sense. That's about small group instruction. I think we're probably starting to see that across all the content areas. Because we know that those are some things that are happening in reading as well. Um, I would say in making sure that a strength in addressing the students, looking at them across how they're moving um through the grade levels. So continuing to track students and say this were their deficits here. We're going to continue to monitor and address their deficits as they move along. I have for some opportunities, which were kind of some of the suggestions. Um, Opportunities for additional support outside of the school day. So, for example, like Saturday tutorial or tutorial partners. Um, Within the school day, thinking about how can we leverage specials time um, with some kind of computer-based skills development, as well as something that is something like a progress learning that gives them questions and tasks that are very similar to the kinds of questions and tasks that they in the ways that they may be asked on the assessment. So giving them some familiarity with that. So those are the strengths and the opportunities that I've noted for us. Is there anything else you all would like to add to either of those lists? Okay.
Can I, just something came to mind.
Go ahead.
I couldn't unmute fast enough. Finding ways to allow the students to bring creativity into their instruction. So I don't know if they still do this. The kids used to make dioramas when they were reading a story. I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but dioramas, portraits, pictures that they can draw, that they can cut out of magazines or whatever to focus around a theme or a topic, something that they produce that is tangible out of the skills that are being taught, and that the skills are defined specifically so that the students know the skill that they're trying to develop. And there should be a continuity to those skills all across the board. I think I spoke to you, Ms. McIntyre. It was nice to meet you in person, by the way. I talked to you about having a skill of the week so that that skill is focused throughout the grades, throughout the week, throughout the building, in every subject area, math, science, social studies, whatever they're doing. Those skills should be, that skill should be focused on during that. And of course, those skill-based questions, how that particular skill is tested or questioned on an exam. They should know that. So if they see a question, they'll say, oh, they're trying to see if I can identify a sequence, or if I can identify the main idea, or if I can come up with a good hypothesis. Those things, and the words, the vocabulary, very important, because those words wind up in those questions. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
So what I hear you describing is what we would call project-based learning. So kind of a so to create authentic experiences and tasks that cut across the curriculum, cut across content areas, so that they can see the continuity of, and as I'm building this skill is useful in literacy, this skill is useful in math, it's useful in social studies and science, and then using those skills to create some kind of authentic assessment, which could be a project or whatever. We're very much technology driven now. So things that used to be a diorama are now made on a 3D printer. So it has transitioned with the times, but what it sounds like you're describing
Yes,
is what we would consider project-based learning.
yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yes. So I will add that. Okay. So, in order for that, based on what we've suggested or given as strengths and opportunities, so what must be true for Stanton Elementary to achieve excellence? What do we need to do? So, I can start off as that one of the things that I heard um, from what talked about is an opportunity for kids for our scholars to be supported in school during the school day and outside of the school day, so to be able to receive support all around. Is that something that I heard?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That goes without even saying. But what I would like to add to it is that our instructors are supported, that they are given quality tools to use at the right time, and that they are supported and uh, what do I want to say? I just want to make sure the staff knows that they are loved and appreciated, that and that staff buys into what's being discussed here. Not that, we're just going to come at them and say, well, the Go team said we got to do this. No. How do you feel about that? And how would it work in your classroom? Which students would this benefit and which students may have a problem with that? And we need to help teachers identify that and feel comfortable about the decisions that they make in terms of how they do want to approach a child and how they do want to assess the situation in their room. The dynamics in the room, in the cohort are important as well. And how can we create that for them and support them with that? So staff as well as students being supported. And other support staff as well. Support staff can get in on instruction. So there's ways to do it. If you have a silent reading period, 10 minutes or 5 minutes silent reading every day, well, then custodians need to do that, as well as the librarian, as well as anybody else who's in the building, including visiting parents.
Okay, if I was looking at the data, as I was scrolling back through the pictures on my phone, um, I would say we also need a plan that is tailored to our school personally and not what is given to us by the district.
A
There are
little bit
some
more about that.
things, there are some things that if we're following the plans and if the plans are not working, we need to tweak some things and just tailor them to our school personally, instead of looking at it generally like this is what we are all supposed to be doing. It's kind of, I guess, what Miss Alma was saying, where it's like we have a certain cohort that is they need something different. They need a different approach, but maybe even as a school, because we're looking at like the math. The math has to turn around and do something different. Um, And it just may take some planning of what does FL Stanton need, not Atlanta Public Schools, but what does FL Stanton Elementary need?
Exactly. You're a charter school. You do what you want and you make it, you show that that's what is unique for us. This is what we do. This is what will work for our children. So yeah, absolutely, Ms. Tucker.
I'm trying to gather the words for that. We're not a charter. We have a charter system, but
Well,
we're not a charter.
you're
So
true.
we don't get a
That's
chance to do
true.
everything.
But you still have a lot more leeway than just Atlanta Public Schools. Okay. So we want to make that clear that we are unique. We do things our way for our kids. And because we do it, and if we do it and we do it right and our kids thrive, we can justify it. There's no reason that anybody should say that we have to do it any other way. This is what works. But we got to make it work. That's the key.
So trying to put it in words because I'm gonna end up adding it to this slide. Um I just heard one of the things that we need is be able to ensure that our staff has the appropriate tools and resources to support engagement through intervention and enrichment.
And
So that,
encouragement and support. Support is probably more important than the tools. Support.
okay, I've added support. And then I just heard from Ms. Tucker, we need the autonomy to be innovative to address our specific school needs. Okay.
Also, when we look at the data, is it possible that we have autonomy going forward for next school term when teachers have the POCs that they get the district plans, but they focus more on how to dissect the plans based off of data, where they'll still teach the standard, but actually how to develop those readiness skills so they could just be more proficient. So basically, just more teacher development.
Okay. Which goes to Ms. Alma's point about support, the way that we support.
Exactly.
Okay. And the last thing that I heard based on the suggestions and the strengths was that we need to make sure that our students are able to receive instruction that is targeted for them um, and allows them to be creative. I'm trying to put together a couple of things, the bullets that I have to try to put them together into some words. Um, so opportunities for scholars to engage in learning that is targeted and allows for I'm not sure what the words are, but something about, I'll try to put it together, something about being able to have some authentic demonstrations of their mastery. So that kind of goes to the projects, to be able to participate in projects.
And to produce a tangible product.
Okay.
That's something that people can touch and manipulate and use in various ways if they
Okay.
can, if they need to, if they want to. Number of different things. Kids get into all kinds of things. I like drawing and creating, these wild things. I did a thing in your school one time where we read a poem, and out of the poem, it was called Michael Built a Bicycle by Jack Perletsky. And the kids drew bicycles, and then I brought in all kinds of crepe paper and glitter stuff and all of this. We were doing girls mentoring, and the girls each made a bicycle. I put it on big drawing paper, and they could decorate it any way they want, because Michael's bicycle in the poem had all kinds of things on it, a refrigerator, all kinds of. So the kids could come in and do it. So the idea is it's an appreciation for poetry. It's an appreciation for the poet. You may want to do in literacy, you can do an author study where everybody's reading the same book throughout the school during that week, or several different books by the same author, different classes, different grade levels. And then you come together and have a discussion about the author. And you ask kids questions like, if this author were asked this, what do you think he'd say? Because now they're familiar with the author. So it's things like that that you get into real life situations that produce some sort of a product that people can manipulate.
Yes. I love it. So the next steps from this, I have these as some needs. So our next steps are principals will spend the summer preparing for the year. And then schools will begin meeting after July 1st to organize their Go teams for the year. And during our first business meeting in the fall, we will start to review strategic priorities and metrics for the year. So we are coming up on a new set of years for the strategic plan. So our strategic plan went through this school year. So we will actually start to build a new strategic plan for the next, I think, 4 to 5 years. And so we will look at the priorities that we've had previously. What priorities do we want to carry over? What new priorities do we feel like we have now based on the data? And especially now that we've taken a look at where we are now and come up with some potential strengths, opportunities, and needs. All right, Ms. Tucker.
We will now move on to information items. First is the principal's report.
Okay, so I'm trying to okay, I was gonna say my slideshow stopped moving. Um, so there was a family engagement survey that was sent out in October that we did not have a lot of participants. So the in size for that was 15 participants, and we did not have 15 participants. So one of the things that we learned from that is that next year, when we will know what the survey is and make sure we send it out. I think there was not a lot of communication that went out on our part from the school. There was some that went out from the district level, but we did not really push this out as something that was a priority from the school level. So now that we know, we will be able to treat it differently. The Georgia Department of Education, though, did conduct brought back school climate ratings for CCRPI. So this year is the first year that we are having a rating. So our rating for the 2024 year, so this is a part of all the other data that has come out for CCRPI for 2024. So this score is very much lagging, but our score was at 82.3. And this year we just completed the survey. So students, teachers, staff, and parents and community all complete a survey, the climate survey, to be able to come up with this score, as well as some other components. So I want to take a look at how we got to this score. So for 2024, our climate rating was at 82.3, as I said. Anywhere from 82.5 and below is 1 star. So we are at 1 star from last year. And this score is comprised of survey data, discipline data that is collected based on the discipline referrals and all of that and consequences and all that that are submitted in Infinite Campus. Also, the a safe and substance-free learning environment and attendance also plays a part in this. So based on these categories is how the score is calculated. So those were our ratings on each of the individual areas, and together that combined to make our score 82.3. So based on this survey, the discipline, attendance, and such from this school year, we will have a 2025 school climate rating as part of our CCRPI. So our additional information items, Ms. Tucker.
I'm sorry, I had to switch devices. I apologize.
No problem. I admitted you.
We will not do the cluster advisory team report. Ms. Coleman will report on the next advisory meeting. So Go Team elections. So the vote will take place April 16th through the 25th. Households are sent the link, and school staff has been sent the link as well to vote for our new Go Team. Any additional points, Dr. McIntyre?
Regarding this.
Not regarding this. Yes, ma'am.
And then we have some announcements. So these are our end of the year announcements. We have a talent show tomorrow. Our big stage talent show. This is one of the events that are happening during our Autism Awareness Week, which is this week. Next week is spring break. The following week, when we return from spring break, we will have our APTT. So that's our parent night and egg hunt. So we'll have something for the parents, some information for them around milestones, participation in Camp Jenny, as well as some a way to collect some information from the city. For the city, as they are looking to make our walk and bike ride to school more safe. And so they will, adults will participate in that while the children participate in egg hunt. And you are more than welcome as a Go Team to bring some donations of plastic eggs with candy. We are trying to get 1,000+ eggs. So to be able to hide for children. And, if you want to put some money in the eggs, we may even have some adults that might want to participate in the egg hunt. Then we have King of the Court at the end of the week, that Friday. We will have student teams and parent teams or adult teams that are able to participate, also staff. So there will be a student King of the Court or team, and as well as an adult group. That will be after school on the 18th. And then we have Georgia Milestones, which will go April 28th through the 14th of May. Our field day will be after Georgia Milestones on the 16th. And we will have our award ceremony for first through fourth graders on the 22nd. Of course, my battery would run low with no cord. And Camp Jenny will be May 23rd through the 25th. And we will have our kindergarten awards program and our fifth grade awards program both on the 28th, with kindergarten being at 9 a.m. and fifth grade being on at 11 a.m. And our last day of school is the 29th. Miss Miss Tucker, I'm gonna go ahead and make these announcements before I can't share anymore.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
Go Team members, please complete your end of year surveys that are available now. You can check your email for the link. The principal feedback survey and Go Team satisfaction survey. And then also, if you have not completed your required training, you received the email about that as well. Please complete that as soon as possible. And if you have any questions, you can contact the Go Team office. I believe.
Miss Judy made a correction in the chat. Miss Judy, would you like to make the correction?
Sure. Camp Jenny's actually 5:23 to 5:26. The kids come home on Monday. We did drop off all of the applications and parent information paperwork to the school on Monday of this week to go home after spring break.
Are there any additional announcements?
I have a question quickly. The eggs you want us to donate, you want us to bring them already stuffed with
Yes.
candy, or do they need to be left for you guys to do?
Already stuffed.
All right.
And you will bring them to Miss Batiste.
Awesome sauce. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And please also encourage that you may know, or just anybody else that would like to donate eggs for our. Are there any additional announcements?
I made the correction, Miss Judy, so that when we post it, it'll have the correct date.
Great, thanks. If you want those parent information forms and packing lists in a digital format, let me know. I don't want to put the applications for the campers out digitally because then they'll go to kids that you haven't approved.
Yes, the packets can be digital. We can add those to be able to add those to Class Dojo.
Okay, then I will send those to you.
All right. We don't have our public comment.
We did have
so we have
we did open a public comment. We didn't have anyone to
yes. Yeah. So we we don't have anyone for public comment. So we have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? All right. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Judy Lamore.
I second Tiffany Coleman.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
Aye, Alma Hall.
I, Tiffany Coleman.
I, Ashley Herbert.
I, Stephanie Powell.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Have a great evening.